Hello, and welcome to our special series of Green Elephant interviews during March 2021, supporting the annual B Corp month. B corporations, or B Corps for short, are businesses that meet the highest standards of verified social and environmental performance, public transparency and legal accountability to balance profit and purpose. Throughout March, we are chatting with key people in companies which have chosen to certify as B Corps and become a force for good. Today I've been joined by Matt Hocking from Leap Media. Leap is an ethical design studio working on creating profitable brands using graphical, digital and business design while keeping a close eye on the sustainability of everything they do. They've been a certified B corporation, should I say, 5 years, being one of the first B Corps in the UK. Matt Hocking founded Leap 17 years ago by my reckoning, and now acts as creative director. Matt is passionate about being a change maker, helping businesses run better and making a living whilst making a difference. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hello, Russell. Well, thanks for having me on the Green Elephant podcast.
You're very welcome. And obviously we know each other quite well, which is an interesting place to start a conversation. But one thing I don't know is what drives your sustainability passion. What makes you do what you do?
It's a really good question, and it sounds silly in a way. I think it's in my DNA. When I was younger, I was a typical schoolboy or boy who wanted to be either Neil Armstrong or David Attenborough.
You're not that old, surely.
I am. I'm 50 this year. What happened is, academically during school, I did all right, but by the end of, I was the first year of GCSEs, I was just quite drained, but I knew I wanted to go on to education and carry on. And I chose art. It's kind of more like a cop-out because I was always good at art. I was a graffiti artist as I was growing up. Doing things a little bit wrong, but good, really good artwork. So I went to art college, and then just ended up into a design world. And I didn't really think about zoology, and I didn't think about space too much. I mean, other than my love of fantasy films and the natural environment.
Yeah.
And but then years later, through my design career, I landed some good design jobs. My first design role was as a junior with 2X Saatchi directors and stuff.
All right.
Show and design. I had no design experience. I was an illustrator, but they took me on, they mentored me, and I really got the combination between kind of creative illustration and creative design. And over the next few years, I worked for numerous organizations, Global Telecoms as part of their European marketing design teams. Worked for Sky, Lego in freelance capacity and stuff, and really had a really good life. And it sounds weird, but I'd got to 29 and I was kind of thinking this is all a bit too easy and there wasn't much purpose behind it. I got to party, I got to see my friends, but it felt like I wanted something more. And but I didn't know what that was. So I was getting disillusioned with the roles. And so I did a bit of traveling. I went to China and Tibet. And when I came back, I basically, a job came up in Cornwall, which is where I'm from, but I was living in Torquay at the time. And my dad said, have you heard of Eden Project? And I was like, kind of, Dad, that's Tim Smith and everybody. And he said, well, there's a design job going there. Why didn't you give it a go? It'd be good to see you back in the county. So I was a bit cocky. My last few jobs, I kind of just walked into and been headhunted and stuff. And so I went to the interview and I hadn't even looked at the job description or anything. I did the interview. It was a really tough interview. I turned up quite smart and corporate, and they sort of slated me, why are you here? What are you doing here? And I sort of said, well, look, any designer worth their salt will adapt and become what their client most needs. And I said, imagine me bringing my corporate world to your natural world, and we put that in design. And before I'd even got off site, I got offered the job. They phoned me back.
Wow.
At this point, I was looking over the top, because it's at the top of the pit. There used to be portal cabins where the foundation building is now. I was looking down going, oh my God, this Eden thing's brilliant. It's like space with plants inside. It's everything I wanted as 8-year-old Matt. And then as they phoned, they said, here's the job. And I was like, cool, like, yeah, brilliant. What's the wage? 16,000, they said. And I was like, oh, that's like 50% of what I earn currently. Is there not anything more? No, this is the wage. And I just felt I couldn't couldn't turn it down. I knew in my gut there was something different here.
All right.
There was opportunity, and to be the first designer on site as well. And if I was as good as I suppose he thought in my ego ways, what could I do with growing a team? Because I already had teams in other design roles and stuff. So a month later, I started Eden, and it was the best thing I could have done. I mean, Eden, I thought they were going to teach me how to be a sustainable designer, how to make a difference on the planet. But actually, what they did is just left me to my own devices. My first 3 weeks were getting to know people, getting to know Eden, and illustrating, going back to my roots of doing chalkboards and things like that. And then over the next 3 years, as I had sort of anticipated, our team grew. We had such a fantastic team of people, and Heidi and Lou and Ellie and Ben and so many others. And in that period, even though I was on like the lowest wage I'd been on for a long time, I felt really rewarded by the work I was doing, that kind of making a living, making a difference, where yes, you need some money to get by, but actually doing the job that feels right, and every day the reward is, you know there's some form of change happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so going from working for Sky and Lego and stuff to, one of my favorite jobs was working for Future Harvest with the Peruvian Potato Foundation, which, but I was so excited about it. And, once I got to say hello to David Attenborough, who was sitting in the reception, the porter cabin, and Ray Mears, I did a voice workshop with him and stuff and things. And it was something different, the people and the place and the culture. And what happened is I would be perfectly content there. It was hard, and it was working really, really tight. We were like a hit squad, our team was, and we'd do like an exhibition for the Guardian or the Eden sessions. All of that I was involved in.
Yeah.
But I met my partner at the time, the mother of my children, and she had got a job. She was working at Eden for the Soil Association on organics, and she was going to move to a new job in Wiltshire, and I was like, I love you, I'm going to go. What job replaces, heading up the graphics team at Eden Project? So Claire had what looked like a good stable job. I thought I'd set up a design, just me as a freelancer. I knew I didn't want to be Matt Hocking design, so I was looking for a cool word that had a bit of energy, and the people kept going about. I used to play leapfrog a lot as a kid and jump off car parks in the trees and things. But so the idea of leap, and then people were saying, oh, it's a bit of a leap of faith from leaving Eden.
Yeah.
And then the other side of things is I said, look, now I've been designing for 3 years in this way, only using the right papers, knowing about your supply chains, knowing where things come from, triple bottom line design for the true way the way I was looking at it, which I sort of coined from Chris Hines's workshops, who was sustainability director at Eden at the time.
Okay.
And so I just set up, and then everybody basically said, friends and family, that's going to fail, isn't it? And graphic design with the environment in mind. So you're only going to produce work environmentally. I said, yeah, I am, and because I've never run a business, I don't know what people are going to do, but actually people were looking for this. I didn't look and see any agencies that were out there because I didn't do that sort of research. Later on, I did find there was Futera and there was Sophie Thomas doing those, who luckily in my future self going forwards, I got to meet these organizations as well. But yeah, I just set it off, and it was a gut reaction to the work I enjoyed that made a difference through doing that work, whether it was locally for Eden Project, just talking about the things they did, or to Eden's partners, helping to amplify their movements. And for me also, there's a real stickiness about the environment and design. They're very, very interconnected. And whereas I'm a bit of an airhead at times, and with the environment, it's stickier with me, the facts and the figures around my work. So, anything about, I really got that you can make a difference by just changing your energy for powering, your computer or powering your website. A lot of people don't realize, they think they switch to web from paper and that they're saving the planet, but actually they kind of are, but in a different way. They're decreasing habitats, as long as you're not using monoculture woods. And then the other side of things, they're using energy intensive servers. So there's still a little bit of a knowledge, disjointedness. So filling in those gaps. So as you can tell, probably from the way I'm talking, I get really excited about the power of creativity to make a difference. And our human world is designed by humans. So we've got, as creators and designers, a huge role to play. And so I think it was my past, as that 8-year-old Matt, love of nature, which has never diminished, in space,
Yeah.
and meeting a job that I could see that I could actually put the two bits into play. And then going forward, once you had discovered that, you can never unsee it or undo it, kind of thing. So for me, it was the only way to work. And luckily for 20 years now, I've had a working life that every day I feel I've contributed to a better future, better business for the companies we work for, the planet, the people that we employ, and those we know. Fingers crossed. So that's how I like to look at it anyway.
And that's keeps you going. I think I'll just quickly nip back to your youth and education. You say you came out of education feeling tired, but then went into art. Did you did you did you find the education didn't serve your creative need, and actually you were creative at the core, and the education, the academic, was you had to go through it, but it was hard work. But as soon as you released into creativity, that was the case, or is it?
A little bit of both. So I've always been creative in lots of different ways, and I don't feel in school they give us enough at the time. I couldn't say now, but enough spectrum of creativity. It was quite linear then.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
creativity is so broad, and
Yes.
planning a city or a road is a creative action in my world, kind of thing. You still got to think of lots of possibilities, how this will work, and lots of factors. My parents never put any pressure on me. They weren't ever saying you have to do well, you have to do well. They gave me incentives, and I came out with 9 GCSEs, ranging from A's to C's, kind of thing. But it was more that I was tired of that learning, but I still felt that I wanted to carry on learning. So I chose art. A few friends were going, so it's that usual thing, you're going, let's all go. And so we started at Camborne, which is a part of the Falmouth School of Art at the time.
Yeah.
Doing technical drawing of all things. And then I went to Swansea and did general illustration. And I've met some of my greatest friends in my life, there, and that's what it gave me. But it was just something about creativity was a way to carry on in education, but without the academic side. But bizarrely, in doing it, I still had to write like theses on like the history of art, and we had to learn German, which I was really poor at. And so
Wow.
And like I said, and creativity, one of my favorite things now is going into schools and talking about sort of making a living, making a difference, and creating your own path and stuff. And that as creatives, how much potential we've got. And I love ideating with young people. Actually, we just heard from about a year ago this week, we'd been working with a group. We've been contacted by Cornwall Museums Partnership, who work with Carefree, a children's charity, and they had just said, "Oh, could you help us like source some material for doing some culture cards?" And I said, "Look, why don't you just come to the studio, bring some young people, and I can run a kind of like a co-discovery workshop on sustainable materials and the planet, kind of thing." And that I thought it was going to be like a 1-hour session, but it was so good that we end up working continuously with the young people and co-designing this culture card. We just got the feedback today saying, just spoken to Cornwall Museum Partnership, Zoe and Celine, and they said when they came into Leap Studio to talk about their culture card with young people, it was the best day ever. They also said they have loved working with us on our project, and you're so great in providing solutions to them throughout the project. So just like a really lovely thing, and that young people since then, just from that 1 hour, have kept on messaging me going, what could I do? How can I make a difference and things? So bizarrely, that education that I tried to run away from, I still end up being part of it. And I've done a keynote speech for the keynote talk for some of the academies of Cornwall. Again, I showed projects from saving the pangolin, one of the most endangered species on the planet. We work with the Asian Pangolin Society years back to kind of, we're working with Spaceport now. So bizarrely, my design career has come back that I'm working on nature and space, just in a very different way. And I think this is the other thing, slightly off topic, Russell, but you just never know where your career goes. But those aims and those goals you might set yourself as a youngster may come back to you when you least expect it. And it was a kind of a dawning moment, I think, when I was at Eden, when I go, oh my God, like I said, I'm working in space, but in Cornwall, in a subtropical biome, you know, and it was kind of like, wow, this is what I used to watch in films in, you know, the 80s sort of thing.
Doctor Who. That would have been Doctor Who landscape, that was.
Yeah, totally. So and so, you know, I love it, and it's very much a driver, and it very much fuels my my adrenaline kind of thing. So yeah, and
you started Leap as it was started from the beginning as an ethical business, one that was to be built sustainably. So when did you become aware of B Corp? Because obviously it started in the US.
Yeah, I mean, B Corp was part of a long journey of kind of proving ourselves. So when we founded Leap, I've been doing sort of ethical and environmental graphic design since 2000. We set up Leap in October 2004, and had a steady flow of, you know, nice work since. And basically, one of the things we got challenged over was, well, what makes you environmental? And a lot of times, especially with tenders, we don't tend to do many tenders anymore, but in the early days we tendered quite a bit for like recycling campaigns and things. And I've been, one of our first clients was Recycle for Cornwall, so we had like an 18-month doing all the work for that. And what we found is we were challenged quite often, usually by people within our own sector. How can design change, especially as we had the tagline "Design for Change," which is about change behavior, change futures, change materials. You know, you name it. So a couple of things happened. A couple of our clients entered us into awards, and we won. We did quite well, winning an environmental award. So locally, you know, we won best employee. That's me. Best, there's only me at the beginning. We won best SME and overall winner at the Cornwall Sustainability Awards over our lifetime. And then on the bigger scale, we've been ranked alongside BT and Mitsubishi and stuff on the what's it called now? The Big Green Tick Award and BITC, Business and Community. We won a Bank of America Climate Change Award, and so quite all these different things. But in trying to prove ourselves, other things happened. So then we started looking, right, how do we measure? So we started on Investors in People. And the environmental accreditation, which I'm sure you know, which is BS 8555 management system that leads on to ISO 14001. So we did all of those, which are quite painful for a very small business. And you spend a lot of money, a lot of time for no actual rewards other than we wondered how good we were and could we technically do it, and we did, but it didn't seem to fit the remit and purpose of the business. It just felt a little bit linear, like people here.
It's a bit mechanical or overly technical, isn't it, really? Yeah.
And so I've watched, there's a company called Free Range who are a B corporation in America. So they got, if you've not seen this video and you've not heard me talk about it, I think it's called The Story of Stuff. And they created this thing, and it was around a lovely animation with a female comedian sort of just talking about how do we get products from China onto the shelves of Walmart and stuff like that are $4, but yet they have rare metals in them. They've traveled the world, various means. They've been built by human hand. How is that possible that product is $4? And it really brought in the petrochemical and the devastation to people and planet there. But they did it for me, in a really tactile way, an engaging way. And I was like, oh, I wonder which creative agency did this. Looked back, found it was Free Range. Don't know what it is about us as designers, but always go to the bottom of the site, logos and how the site's policies and stuff, or at least for me. And there I saw the B Corp identity, which hasn't changed greatly since I first came across it in sort of 2007, 8. I can't particularly remember which year it was, but we must be over 10 years of B Corp is existing now, and 6 years in the UK. So clicked on that, and it took me to the B Corp certification, and I was like, oh wow, this is people and planet and community and how we manage. And I always berate the way I manage a business, and our impact. So it's also scoring impact, and I really love the terminology, measuring what matters, using business as a force for good. It was for profit driven businesses. So to balance people, planet, and profit. Whereas I've been asked a lot of times to be a social enterprise, and many of our clients have been social enterprise, but the level of paperwork always daunted me. I'm not very good with paperwork. Interestingly, as you get into the BI impact assessment, you realize you've got to do a lot of paperwork, but by that you're hooked. So I watched the B Corp movement grow. Strangely, curiosity is one of our values, and I didn't use the curiosity to actually reach out and say, I'm in England, could I become a B Corp in America? America. Turns out there were more curious businesses in the UK, like Cook and Volans, and so Charmian and James from Cook. They were already certificated quite early on, and they brought that to the UK. And when I heard it was in the UK in 2015, we went straight for it. So, and for me, and it was what I hoped as well, the certification was kind of like a watershed moment as well. So all this doing what we believe in, so design for change, that was all good. Our clients were good. They were self-selecting as well. Actually, we'd prefer a broader range of clients. They don't have to be environmental to work with Leap. I then, after a few years of running the ISO 14001, although that would score in the B Corp certification, we decided to drop it anyway. Financially, it wasn't viable. It stressed our teams out, our small teams. And I felt that B Corp, coalesced everything holistically into one space and framework. And what it helped is us literally grow up as a business. It was kind of like, I guess, doing our GCSEs. If I go back to school version of me, it kind of like it was the revising, the making sure we've got the things we need for the test and stuff like that. But creating a framework that I knew from day one would help us build upon and enhance our organization. And also, one of the other things why I created Leap, Russell, was I really wanted our sector to do more, design sector. There's no legislation for designers. We can do whatever the hell we want. We can just, create to destroy the planet rather than create to create a better planet. And it's only down to our individual choices and consciousness over what we will and won't do. And so I felt like by being in this framework, it kind of put a sort of self-imposed but very positive North Star come legislation to us as a business. Although we could still work with companies that weren't necessarily, they didn't have to be a B Corp, they didn't have to be sustainable to work with Leap. No. We'd always bring a greenness to them and awareness. But B Corp's kind of, as well as becoming a certificated B Corp, so, we've in January 2016, we achieved 103 points. And I think then we're the 70th B Corp in the UK and the first design agency. There were web agencies, but not design studios. And so and for going from there, it's just become, like I said, a North Star. It helps the framework of our natural moral compass. And on top of that, it's kind of like people see the B Corp certification. It's not widely known still. It's still, a growing community and certification. But those who do know it, there's a certain level of respect and a desire to work together and share. And on the other side of things, what I wanted to do with the design community was we were here, question us about how we do things ethically, environmentally, and socially. And I think sometimes businesses see competitiveness rather than togetherness. And what we got with the B Corp certification is also lots of agencies contacting us and going, how can we do this? And we've actually helped a number of what would be considered competitors once to achieve the certification or be working towards it. So long story short, it was finding something that again was fit for purpose, which was sustainable and could grow with us.
Yeah.
And again, with sustainability, there is no getting to sustainability and you're at the top and there's no more.
Yes.
It's ever improvement. We're ever learning. We're always learning that how we can better coexist with our natural and social capital on this planet.
Yeah, I mean, imperfectly sustainable is all we'll ever be, isn't it? Really?
We'll do one thing like, so I don't know, lithium batteries. With huge demand on it. I don't know the environmental impact on people and planet through the mining of it, but we know we're going into an electric future. So because that's renewable, so then there's going to be you probably know stuff around this that I don't. But so that on the tickle of my mind is always these things about what is right or wrong. I use Apple Macs. are they right or wrong? But ultimately, for me, they're a tool that are the most sustainable tool for my work. But whether they're the most sustainable tool for the planet is another thing. And hopefully, the two will meet at some point. Apple will go, we've got an opportunity and we've got a legacy and a duty here. And us as consumers will go, these are the products we want because they are better for people and planet.
Yeah, I know Apple have worked really hard to rip out some of the chemicals that are in their LED or LED screen.
Okay.
But all said and done, there's still about 250 chemicals used to create an LED screen.
Oh, wow. I did
and
not
they
know
really
that.
should be trapped in the screen, but there's also been things we've heard about where the dust basically from an LED can be found in places where the screen hasn't been for years. So you're right. I mean, we too work off Apple Macs, and you look at this, and then but you look up against the metal casing over again, plastic casing, but it's a difficult game to play, isn't it? Because you do one thing, as you say, get rid of, oh, we're paper free now, and we work everything online, and that's more ecological. Is it?
Yeah.
Well, perhaps that brings us on to an interesting point. You've got one of your products is called Wunderism.
Yeah.
That obviously is focusing on making the internet a little bit more sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was around, we needed to provide the service for ourselves anyway, because, most of our clients will want us to design a brand, then they want us to design and build a website. And the easiest pathway then is to host their emails and their site.
Yeah.
So very, very quickly, we started, by the way, we had our paper supply chain footprinted by 2006. So I had a calculator in 2006 that was developed for us so that we could look at the impact and on every print job we did, and so knew the carbon footprint of it. And now paper companies are doing it themselves, but we kind of just did it on our basic supply chains. We brought in a part of that. So with the web, it was the same sort of thing. It's going, right, we're using energy, and it's kind of going on a bit further than just going, oh yeah, I was already on 100% renewable energy at the time with good energy. So we knew that we were powering the computer in the right way, but what about our servers? So we just started asking questions, and there were loads of servers around the world that were renewably powered or this or that. But we wanted some in the UK, which was harder to find. And in the end, we found, I think it took us about, again, a couple of years to find somebody that we felt was right for us, that could answer the questions in I'm non-technical, so it has to be really quite simple for me to understand.
Yeah.
And then we were basically able to offer carbon neutral websites, renewably powered, but that were also certificated. So they had PAS 106 carbon neutral certification. So, and the only servers in the UK that have it. So we're basically, a reseller of other core servers in the UK. But it allowed us to basically carbon monitor our clients, and we've got to a stage now where if somebody contacts us, so we're working with a project in Interlaken at the moment, a water sports company. So we've taken their carbon footprint of their current website, which is on renewably powered servers, but it uses high grammage of energy through the amount of time it takes to load up. And so our thing, sort of an average website will be about 1.72 grams of CO2, but if you're using a WordPress theme, more generally around 5 grams per page view. And so if you imagine, that tens of thousands of page views times 5 grams, that's a lot. So what we try and do is we set a page budget for our website designs. So we aim for 1 gram of CO2. It's carbon neutral and it's renewably powered, so it's built in a way that does what the client needs. And we're just doing our footprinting for 2020, and of the 300 sites that we have, and some of them aren't ours, they're not all our design clients, some of them are just people just wanting hosting. We did an average page view of 42,000 through if we did the mean through the 300 clients. And that meant we had a footprint of 66.5 tons of CO2 if we hadn't been using carbon neutral, renewably powered hosting.
Right.
So, and this is the bit, I didn't used to like technical stuff, and I hate Excel spreadsheets and stuff. But bizarrely, I find all this bit like really wowy.
Yeah.
That the difference you make just by doing the job you do. So, and I think, you know, we've got 6% of the global energy is used to power the internet. You know, is it 6%? I might have got that stat wrong. I'm not good at stats, but it's equal to the energy footprint of the sixth largest country in the world. You know, the internet uses, and this is old stats now. This comes out of Greenpeace's Clicking Green report, which is 2017, but used 200 million tons more CO2 than the global aviation industry. And people are like, what? You know, streaming 1 hour of Netflix uses the same power as a fridge for one person as a standard fridge for 2 years powered. So everything has a footprint. It's just how we use energy, and ultimately switching our own energy and our business energy, and looking at our hosting and looking at who our email provider is and going to be an essential part of decarbonising our digital footprints.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, the Netflix one you threw in there. It's you know, people don't think, they think this is, you know, almost free.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting. My brother always had a go at me because I hadn't got rid of all of my DVDs and Blu-rays. And I kind of, now I'm thinking, you know what, I'll bung a Blu-ray on if I want to watch an old film, not watch off Netflix, because I've already paid the price for that carbon. Why stream it time and time again? But is making a Blu-ray better than streaming it if you're only going to watch it once, which is better to do it, you know? And if you've got 4 people in the room watching it, is that, it's so,
we're not all going to know footprints. I mean, you know, you and I both read the same book, you know, How Bad Are Bananas, that sort of thing, you know, by you know, Mike Berners-Lee, who's his brother Tim Berners-Lee is the founder of the internet. So, but I think I always talk about sustainability comes with us first, but also what is sustainable for our lifestyle. So I do watch a lot of Netflix. I don't have terrestrial channels and stuff like that.
No.
And I'm not, and I am renewably powered at home. I've got a tariff and solar panels, but that doesn't justify my use of Netflix. Netflix for me is just an easy bit of background material. It sort of works for the family. So yeah, I still go on and do these things. It doesn't stop me from doing it. I think it's sometimes that awareness, and it's why personally I would love it to see, you know, every home powered by renewable energy. Why aren't they building new homes that are all powered by renewable energy? And you know, when we moved offices to Old Bakery, Kath King, who runs Old Bakery, when we were negotiating coming into have our space there, I said I needed renewable energy. I played a bit of a wild card. I said, as a B Corp, I need renewable energy to power our offices. And Kath was like, yeah, sure, we'll look into it, but it's going to be a bit pricey. I said, well, can I look at your energy bill? Who's your provider? Sometimes just by asking, you find out somebody's already on renewable energy, but they weren't, and they were locked in. But I think Kath was paying a huge sum of money a year. There's about 48 businesses in Old Bakery, plus live events and things. So using a lot of energy. And so she's paying £4,000 climate tax levy. And I was like, if you just switch to renewable, you have noticed at night, a lot of your lights are on all night long. So I reckon if you turn the lights off and did a campaign over, like with the tenants, you could probably reduce your energy footprint by a couple of thousand. So in reality, you would be spending £2,000 less on renewable energy than what you'd be paying with your current bill, lights on, and the climate change levy. And what was brilliant there is Kath went, yeah, I'll do it. I'll commit to that. So she changed. And then she said, by the way, I've swapped my other offices that we have as well. So they have another sort of office complex in Truro. And then after that, it was like a light bulb moment going, what more can I do, Matt? I like the idea of B Corp. Could I look at this? Like, sure. You know, you could be the eco-creative quarter of Truro, you know, as Old Bakery. And so she switched all her cleaning materials and everything. So, and she already had like recycling and stuff like that. And then she's up that. So it's really good to just see these little actions that everybody can do.
Yeah, and I think for the listeners, the Old Bakery is truly an old bakery. It's not somewhere where it was born. You know, is on the land of an old bakery in this brand spanking new building. It is a fantastic, windy staircase little place. Well, it's not little; it's absolutely massive.
You get lost, yeah,
You do
yeah.
get lost. I've been lost in old bakery, running up and down the corridors trying to find the room. But yeah, it's a lovely place, but also it's kind of it's recycled. So making the building doesn't have to be knocked down and rebuilt. It is a beautiful piece of history in Truro, as you are.
Yeah, and beautifully placed by the river. And I wanted
Oh,
a place, and we moved there because the team, we were looking at cutting our carbon footprint of our team. So just simple actions, creating better well-being. So, and being in a better place, so the team could do their shopping and easy lunchtime activities and things. So
and the commute's easier because there's better public transport, etc.
yeah,
So, yeah, I mean that's brilliant. Also, that 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 desire to bring down your footprint, let's call it the carbon footprint, the CO2 that you, or the equivalent CO2 that you might emit through your doing your business, leads naturally. You want to get that down as low as you can, but you will always leave a footprint.
yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it. Are we will leave a footprint up to the day we get buried, and it takes a while after that before we finish leaving our footprint, to be honest. Is that especially with cremated, but that's by the by. The That leads kind of on to net zero, which you've recently committed to as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So a lot of this comes, even within the B Corp framework. There's naturally areas that it's questioning: what are you on renewable energy in your office?
Yes.
Are you measuring your scopes, i.e. the carbon footprint of different activities within your organization, whether it's through the energy that supplies the organization to how people go to and from the organization on business transport, products you use and the like.
Yeah.
And so we'd already been measuring scopes 1 and 2 for quite a while now. So Leap's generally operated for most of its lifetime under 10 tons of CO2 footprint per year, which basically, for a team of 9, that's a really kind of low operating sort of carbon budget. And then as we've pushed ourselves to understand what does it mean to, we pledged to be net zero virtually with 503 other B Corps at COP25 last year. Was it last year?
No, it was 2019. It's 2020. We've kind of wiped off the calendar, haven't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Just just to be clear, what does net zero mean in the context of the net zero 2030 you committed to?
This is just kind of like a commitment. I think the governments of the world or countries of the world have committed to net zero by, I think, 2050.
Mostly, except for China. I think you said 2060, but
yeah, and for us, it's kind of like it can be looked at in various different ways. So the way we're looking at it is based on science-based targets. So keeping ourselves below that 1.5 degree temperature rise threshold, and the net zero can be interpreted in different ways. So there is the kind of like, what is it to be completely carbon neutral, and a lot of organizations may take the thing that, like, I've planted X amount of trees, so I've completely made myself carbon neutral. But it's, for us, it's systematic minimization, rather than offsetting, to achieve a zero footprints balance, which is going to be impossible. But the way it can be worked is, we're lucky. So the first is understanding our footprint, and then it's understanding our clients' footprints and our supply chains footprints, because as a brilliant B Corp, Forster Communications, so I don't know if you're doing a podcast with them, but they've committed, as part of their climate positive plan, is they've committed to have a completely net zero supply chain for whoever they work with by, I think it's sometime in the next 2 years, if not sooner.
Wow.
We work with them, which is lovely. And so those are people that have pledged net zero, but I think there's the pledging, and then there's the action is the important thing. So, and again, it's the understanding. So for us, actually what we would like to be is net positive, that we'd got to such a place that we were giving back. And we can do that giving back carbon wise by, overplanting. In reality, people will plant a tree at the moment, but a tree takes what? You'll know this stat better than me.
20 years to become CO2.
Yeah, but
positive,
and is it 20 years or 40 years for 1 ton of carbon to be soaked up.
It's basically the lifetime of a tree.
Yeah. So in reality, when somebody's saying one tree to offset their carbon for a year, no, actually, you probably need 40 trees planted that year for that 1 ton. So and that's how we look at it, actually. So we've been kind of doing the math around the multiplication. I can't speak anymore.
It is late.
Yeah, of what that will be. So we've done lots of pledges in our time, but I think we're beyond pledging now, where it needs to be real action. And so we did this because of with the B Corp community. We've always been carbon neutral. We've always understood our footprint, but now we want to go further. And once we've figured it out ourselves, is then to help other organizations do it. We'll be sharing what we've learned and how we've done it. So, it's costing us quite a bit of money. We work with another B Corp to map our scopes to science-based targets and below. So we're looking at a 46% reduction in our carbon footprint, which with our supply chain totals about 31 tons of CO2. So to operate LEAP 6 tons with all our team driving in and to and back and from work or train or walk. But because in that is like 2019, we took the train to Amsterdam for a B Corp conference. There was a flight to Glasgow for a networking day for Bernardo's and things that was very time-based, so we had to go up there. And so we had a high footprint. It sounds bad, but during COVID, obviously, we've all seen significant reductions in how we move and travel. So I would expect a nigh on 90% cut in our carbon emissions for 2020.
But presumably you're going to have to account for the increased carbon emissions that are coming from somebody's house for having to. I've got a panel heater on here because my legs are freezing. I work in a cellar.
Yeah.
So my housing costs have gone up. My energy consumption's got up. Am I on the right,
yeah,
that kind of stuff. So I know there's some work being done on that.
Yeah, and also using Zoom. Zoom cuts the carbon footprint of a meeting massively from what it would have been a physical meeting, but it still has 0.2 grams of CO2 per hour or something
per person.
Yeah, so there's all these different things. And funny enough, slightly again aside from where we are, but because my house is solar powered, and we had such a brilliant year.
Yeah.
And my house is 160 years old and terrace. My house is pretty warm all the time, or it either goes winter, it goes freezing. So, but I like that. But I had so much income from my solar, which I haven't got a high feed-in tariff. It was just working really, really well. So, because I was solar powered, because I'm with a renewable energy tariff, I feel for me, and I think 70% of our team are on renewable energy, and we've got incentives in place for them all to switch.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably part of the journey you've gone through, but you do get to spend a lot more time thinking about what you can do to help your staff and what you do to help your team, and then what you do to help your customers to just become that little bit more sustainable, a little bit less carbon. And it's quite an enjoyable journey, especially in the B Corps world. Now, it's one of the, getting back to the subject at hand, we're sitting in B Corps month of March. And what we're trying to do is just get 31 opinions of why did people become a B Corp, and I think you've covered that pretty well. What I haven't covered is certificating, and as you are probably in the middle of, are you, or
we are on the tail end of our third certification, so yes.
So is it easy? I mean, I'm asking everybody whether they find it easy.
No, and I wouldn't want it to be easy. I mean, for a small service-based company like ourselves, we have got it easy. Yes, it is time-consuming. Yes, some of our team won't quite understand what's happening, even though now we've kind of got them all invested in it. And actually, my team are leading this version. I'm not involved in the final certification so far. But for bigger companies, there's a lot to do to get there. But it shouldn't be just a pay some money and tick some boxes thing. It's something that helps you become a better business, to make you more resilient, more attractive, more answerable to yourself, and better in business, and better for the future, and better for profits as well. And so you know, yeah, I've gone through 3 different types of certification. So the impact assessment changes every 3 years, but not in tune with your own certification, which is when I first got LEAP certificated, it was every 2 years you had to recertificate. So a lot faster. You literally finished one and you started the next. But now it's every 3 years. So we've done versions 4, 5, and 6. So in each time, language has changed, questions have changed. They've taken knowledge from what's happening in the world and environmental, intersectional justice, Jedi policies. I'm not even going to remember what Jedi equity, diversity, and inclusion.
Justice, justice, equity. Yeah.
That's coming in the new one. Will the new version, which they're getting global feedback on at the moment, which you'll be asked to be part of, will that have anything to do with climate emergency or the Better Business Act or all the other things that are going on? So, but definitely is very rigorous. But as I said, for a creative agency that, most creators are fairly, creatively chaotic in a good way, it helps you think about where to apply yourself, the business, your values and your purpose. And also for other organizations I've had the pleasure of working with and uncovering the brilliance that they were already doing in the business, that they may have never thought much about it, but they'd been supporting communities or local growing for, years and stuff. And suddenly goes, oh, wow, we just thought that was the way everybody did it. And showing there's better ways for other businesses in their sectors to do things. So it's a hard one, but worthwhile.
And you clearly value the B Corps. Yeah, on that basis, you value that certification, that award, and anything else you value about the B Corps movement?
I think it's just the community. One of the things when I first set up LEAP, my partner at the time, Claire, who's still a good friend, and we worked together, but Claire was working, as I said, for the Soil Association, and she took me. We organised Organic Week for Eden project, and it was Eden's first organic week. So I did the designs and Claire did all the management and brought in all the partners, organizations. But she took me up to Bristol Organic Food Fair and I was just meeting suppliers. I love talking to people. And normally, in business, people don't share their secrets about how they do things. There's a kind of a closed mentality, like being back at school and don't copy my homework kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was at this organic food fair, and I think it's probably one of the sort of landmark moments for me. These makers were so proud of the produce and their teas and their coffees and chocolates and things. They were telling you how they made them. There wasn't anything hidden. There might be like secrets. We put chili in or something like that. And I love that openness, and that was the brilliance when I first joined the B Corp community. And I think a couple of months after joining, I went on a retreat with many of the initial early B Corps, and it was just like everybody shared their policies, what worked and what doesn't. And I think this is the thing, we all have an understanding that it's no easy road. We're always, as we said earlier in the conversation, we're always going to be learning, but if we can learn together and share some of the tasks and share learning and policy and share better ways to do packaging, better ways to design, it makes it easier than just doing it standalone. And I think, together we're stronger. I'm hoping that's not one of our political parties' terms, but I just suddenly realised, God, I sound like I might be a politician, but
start running out every little counts next, and we'll be into supermarkets.
I think it's the community, and to be part of something. Obviously, when I joined B Corp, I didn't know what the potential of this movement, this community, this certification would be, but it was the knowledge that I wanted to be in some form of framework and have a tool at hand that can enable us to be as best as we could be in business and as best as we could be for the world. And in doing so, we've met fantastic people. I've gone to conferences all over the world where I've just sort of said, I'm a B Corp, I'm going to be in your region. If you want to meet up and talk. And I've had people come like in Barcelona and in Amsterdam, just come and talk, and really interested in B Corp, would really like to know more. I've never been good at networking, but I really like just opening up about the potential for better business.
Oh, it is a great community.
Hmm.
So I asked you if you had an action that we could bring to our herd of listeners, something they could perhaps try to improve themselves sustainably wise.
Yeah, I mean, my big thing is just switching. Switching to renewables for your business, for your home, even if it's just a tariff. And no, it might be a little bit extra, but it was really worth contributing to a renewably powered future. Find a supplier that suits you. I've got preferential ones, but I would better not sort of name. But yeah, that would be my big one. The other thing is just more of a lifestyle thing. So that's kind of like a business or a home action. The other thing is just kind of going out and just breathing in the world kind of thing. I mean, we're lucky we live in Cornwall, and it's very
Very fortunate.
and I think, we're both co-chairs of Be Local Cornwall, and we've got an entrepreneurial landscape and business-scape around us, so we respond, I hope or feel, to that environment and that way. But I think there's just something about this slowing down period that we've had, and just appreciate as we become more active again and get back outside, is just to enjoy it. And then a foolish, silly thing that I just recommend every day is at least do one handstand and change your perspective, no matter what you do. It's not about, and most people will laugh at this and go, "Oh, I haven't done a handstand since I was a kid." And it's like, exactly. So against a wall, it doesn't have to be freedom, and just change his perspective, breathe upside down. And when you've had a bad day, or when you just don't feel like you're going ahead with something, you wanted to sort of improve on, do a handstand, laugh at yourself, come back down safely, breathe, and then go back into action.
That's a that's a really interesting one, because I'll show people this. I'll move my camera. It's probably not great for those people not watching the video, but I have got an inversion table that is there in my cellar, and so before we came on, I had a quick rush of blood to the head and turned myself upside down for 5 minutes.
Excellent.
Yeah. But mainly for the welfare of my back. But I'll now treat it as perhaps a different perspective.
I think I do it because, I mean, it's slightly going back on the conversation, but the one thing I love about creativity and environmental activism, or just change, is design is playful. We can deal with the real hard stuff, and we can deal with the sensible stuff and the fun stuff, but we can creatively help people to look differently at the world. And I think that's the joy of design, and it's a kind of fairly safe access point into things like, hey, have you thought about changing? Have you thought about this? We can guide you through this. Don't worry, we'll look at something that works for your budget, X, Y, Z kind of thing. And then the B Corp thing invariably comes up in those conversations. See, you're a B Corp. Could you tell us about that? Sounds really interesting. Yeah, I would love to. So it's kind of our kind of playful stealth creative activism in kind of creating greener businesses and a better future for all. So
brilliant. So also there was a recommendation. Have you got something you can recommend? I think you've got a book.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different things, but yeah, I mean, this is just some of the facts that I probably got wrong during our conversation, but this is the 10th anniversary edition that came out, I think, last year. Snap, I said it first. So how bad are bananas? The carbon footprint of everything. It's really interesting when you learn a basic email has a couple of grams of CO2, and you think, well, that's not I sent an email. But 70%, is it plus, of the world's emails are spam emails? So just think of that, and that's millions, maybe billions of emails.
Yeah.
And actually going back slightly on an action to do is also decluttering. If you're signed up to newsletters and things that are no use, you just delete every time. Actually unsubscribe and just take out that little part of your digital footprint.
Yeah.
So Mike Berners-Lee, and then a book that I haven't read, but I was just on a fabulous call with some fellow B Corp ambassadors that we've been kind of meeting up every couple of couple of months, for 2.5 years now. Actually, there's like a group of about 6-7 of us, and we've helped inform some pretty cool stuff in the B Corp community, and it's called The Good Ancestor, and it's How to Think Long Term in a Short Term World by Roman. I don't even know I'm going to say his name right. Krasnarek, and
Krasnarek, yeah, or Krasnarek, yes.
And so I haven't read that, but I've just looked at the infographics while I was on the ambassador session, and just the way they showed like short-termism versus kind of long-term futurism. I just really liked it. So that's going to be my next book to read, and it came highly recommended from a fellow B Corp. So I'll be looking at that.
Yeah, we'll post links to those books and ways to do a handstand and safely do a handstand, lest that tip cause some form of lawsuit. And we'll link to that one as well. So yeah, I'm kind of intrigued at the infographic they've put out there. So that's great. So finally, I get to test you with some fact or fake.
I reckon I'm just gonna do really badly, but you know.
Okay, well, we live in one of the best surfing areas of the world. Are you a surfer?
A bad one, below average.
Okay, well, this one was an American fact, but I've converted it slightly. An average polyester resin 6 foot 1 inch shortboard has a carbon footprint of 182 kilograms of CO2 equivalent.
Wow.
Is that a fact or is that a fake?
And this is kind of like it's complete manufacturing to get to there, and it's lifetime use, is it?
Lifetime use, probably not. I think this was a manufacturing to produce a average polyester. I'm not going to count all the wax you bung on it and everything.
I use Eco Wax, and I have a balsa board actually.
Oh, a balsa board! Wow, that must be.
Yeah. And funny enough, at Eden, we created one of the first eco surfboards while we were at Eden, from trees from Eden. So that's not my board, but my friend Pat still surfs it.
Brilliant.
But God, that's an interesting one, because I'm hoping it is false, but I've got a really bad feeling the average carbon footprint. You're talking lifetime. Human footprint's about 10 tons. So I'm going to say true.
It is a fact. That is correct. And if you went for an epoxy 9, and this is where it was an American, an epoxy 9 foot 1 inch longboard, that's near 450 kilos.
Can you send me these stats afterwards? I'd love
to. The links will be there, but I will show you the page I got it from.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting. I mean, like with Tom from Finisterre talking about the impacts of wetsuits and creating the world's first wetsuit.
Yeah, that's right.
And stuff, and making new wetsuits. But I think as surfers that we love the environment so much, but don't really understand the footprint of it. We're going to keep on doing it, but we use our camper vans if we got camper vans, or we're traveling all around counties, or zooming from London to Cornwall, whatever, to surf, let alone globally. And actually, some of learning these kind of sort of stats and figures is really interesting.
Yeah, well, don't whatever you do, if you like football, look up in How Bad a Banana Is how much the World Cup costs in CO2. You'll probably never watch another game of football in your life.
Well, you'll be pleased to know I don't do football. I don't watch.
Oh, that's right. Well, I'll look at the rugby figures another time.
Cool. What's my next one?
Your next one is Information Communication Technology, ICT, IT, accounts for, and this goes back to your comment, 5.5% of the world's CO2 emissions. Is that a fact or a fake? So that's ICT accounts for 5.5% of the world's CO2 emissions.
So this would include the internet as well.
All ICT. This was end user devices, the whole lot.
I would say, I said the last facts I read on the internet, and I haven't read all the way through How Bad a Banana Is. So
that's good, because this is at the end of this book.
Yeah. I did think it might be. I rarely get to the end of a book. Luckily, the things about emails are at the start of the book. And I did wonder about, I think he deals with the carbon footprint of producing that book as well.
Yeah, he does.
But I will say that I'm going to go true, although I do think it is actually going to be higher.
Well, funnily enough, I was surprised because it's lower. I
Oh.
went up. It's 2.5% of the world's CO2, not 5.5. So I was quite surprised at that.
Yeah, because I'd been told 2 or 3 years ago that the internet's footprint was equal to 2%, and I figured it would naturally be more by now.
Yeah, well, you would have thought so, but well, check it out for yourself. It's in the back of the book, but don't look at the book before I ask you. Each deforested hectare is equivalent to driving a car 25 times around the world. Is that a fact or a fake? So for every hectare that is deforested, it is equivalent to driving a car 25 times around the world.
And this based on carbon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking average cars and average hectares, but yes.
God, you're just looking at funny faces. Yeah, nothing spontaneous about me. Like I'm starting to think. So, I'm hoping it's not. So this is like a actual like mature forest type we're talking about. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, deforestation is usually taking it down, using it for something else other than replanting a forest. So perhaps for farming or for a monocrop of some kind. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say true.
It's fake.
Oh, is it? Okay, what is it then?
Each deforested hectare is equivalent to driving a car between 50 and 100 times around the world.
Oh, it's even okay. It's worse.
Way worse. Way worse.
I was hoping that because there's a speed. What's it? Every 6 minutes we lose a hectare or something. Is it or something like that?
Yeah. So we number of cars that must be needing to spin all the way around the world. It'd be ridiculous. I mean, horrific figures. It's well worth reading that book. I didn't know when I prepared my facts or fakes. I didn't know you were going to recommend the book, so that it was highly fortuitous you hadn't read it to the very end.
Yeah.
I'd recommend you read up about the World Cup.
I've read the bits that are kind of like sort of relevant to the digital stuff, like the Zoom call.
Yeah.
And flick through it. I did actually do I might have said to you before, it was for, I don't know, BBC Radio 2 or 4. It was a segment about the footprint of the internet, and it was Matt Berners-Lee. We weren't on at the same time. They'd already asked him questions, so he would have done much higher level stuff, and then it was me on a kind of small business taking action kind of level. So yeah, it's all very interesting. And I said, there is a good point that we do need to grow forests, but we've also got to look at more trees. We've got to look at the right trees in the right places and just be conscious of how we're doing that. And
the right mix of trees and the right mix of places as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we create habitats and the like. So yes, very interesting.
Okay, well, on that stunning win for me, thank you very much for that. And thank you very much, Matt, for joining us.
Hey, no, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me along on the Green LE podcast. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care, man.
We really hope that you found this special B Corp Month episode both informative and entertaining. Make sure you don't miss any of the 31 interviews with B corporations who are striving to be a force for good. So make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss a thing, and don't forget to spread the word with others. If you have any questions about being or becoming a B Corp, or any comments and suggestions about the show, please do get in touch. You can email studio@greenelephant.show, or visit the website greenelephant.show, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube or Twitter by searching for Green Elipod or The Green Elephant Show. You can also review the show on Google and Apple Podcasts. Join us tomorrow, and we hope you have a sustainable day.